And hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a character enemy that has rotation and shooting. Now we've seen shooting in the previous video, so I'm just going to be copying and pasting that into the new video or into the new character. Since it's code that we've already seen, we don't need to explain it again. I might just briefly cover what it's doing, but we'll just copy and paste it, and then I'll show you what you have to change in the code to get that to work. Otherwise, it'll be referring back to the other code. So we are going to copy and paste, but we do need to make a few changes to that. The other new piece of code will be the rotation. So I'll show you how to get the character to rotate. Now, my idea for this character would be like a rotating turret. The turret stays in one place, so there's no motion, there's no AI move to that needs to be generated for this character, but we do want the character to have pawn sensing, so then that way it can sense the main character, and then from there rotate to always be facing the character. So they'll be in a central pivot, and they'll turn around on that pivot to always be facing you as long as you've gone into their pawn sensing. So let me show you these two characters that are on the floor now. If I click on one of them, you'll see that their pawn sensing is facing away from us, and it's a short field. And then the other one is going to be facing inward this way with about the same kind of field. So there'll be an area back here that I can walk where I won't be affected by either one of them, unless of course this guy turns around, and if I stand here in the middle, they will both be firing at me. So let's go ahead and push play and show you how this works. Okay, so notice that they are not reacting to anything because I'm not in the field of their vision. So let me walk in front of this character, and you see once I'm inside of their pawn sensing, it starts shooting at me. Notice that the other one is not shooting and it's not reacting to me. So let me walk into the middle area. This one starts shooting. The other one is shooting. They are reacting. They are turning in place. Okay. Let me walk away from that one. And notice that this one is still shooting, even though that wasn't originally the area that it could shoot in because it was turned around. And now if I'm far enough away, it indeed does stop shooting and it stops reacting to me. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you how to get this started. Okay, so in your content folder underneath a_enemy, let's go ahead and double click. And what we want to do is let's go ahead and start a new folder. So let's right click, new folder. Let's name this rotate shoot underscore enemy. Okay, let's double click in there, and let's go ahead and drag the ball in from one of the other two areas. So you can either go back to first person BP and grab the ball there. Remember to make a copy. Don't actually move the ball. You don't want to remove that from your first person character. Let's go to, because the one that's closer is the one that's the roaming, the one for the other one, the last video that we created. So I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to hit Control C. Or, I'm sorry, let me just grab and drag it into rotate shoot enemy. I want to make a copy. Then we'll go into rotate shoot, and let's go ahead and remember that this needs to have a unique name. So let's go ahead and double click on that. And whoops, I should just be able to right click and say rename. That's also F2. So this one is going to be rotating. There is no chase, so I'll say RS. So for rotating shoot projectile. And once that's there, we can click on it and I guess hit Control S. So it might have auto saved for me just there. All right, now that I have that, what we need to do is we need to create a new blueprint, a character blueprint for the new character. And let me go ahead and remove these from the area, so then that way when we drop them in there, they will be new characters. So we're going to right click in the empty space, go to blueprint class. There we have character. We're going to select character, and we're going to call this rotate shoot. Oops. Okay. So now that we have rotate shoot, we need to go ahead and add the code for it. Now remember that I said that the shooting part of it, we could copy from the other character. So I'm going to go back up a folder to a enemy. The other character that can shoot is roam, chase, shoot. So let's click on them. Let's open up their blueprint. And from there, let us copy, let's scroll out far enough and find the part that does the shooting. And I'm going to just clean this up a little bit.
To make this look a little nicer. Okay, there, that doesn't look so all over the place now.
Okay, so what I want to do is grab everything from the branch condition back. This is actually what is generating the shots, and remember that we will have to add a spawn projectile location and these two variables into what we're creating. So we're doing this, and we're also going to have to make a change there, but we're going to hit Control C for now, and let's go back into the code for the other one, and we made some changes here, so let's go ahead and hit save. Okay, we're going back to A enemy. We're going to the rotate shoot enemy. We're going back into rotate shoot. Okay. Now we can obviously put the mesh there, but let's go ahead and just copy and paste this since we were already doing this anyways. Let's hit Control V. Alright, so we'll come back to that part, but at least we have that pasted in there. So let's go to the viewport. The first thing we obviously need to do is remember that this is looking for an animation and a skeletal mesh, but in this case what we're doing is we're going to be using a cube mesh, which is static for the statue, so then that way we can focus on the code and not so much what we're doing with the animation. So we're going to click on Add Component. We're going to add a common underneath cube. The cube we'll click on, we'll go under here under static mesh and details panel. I'm going to type in statue. For some of y'all this might be a turret, this could be a number of different things. Let's see what this guy looks like. Okay, whatever. It's a statue. Let's get the material for it. This was ON something. Oni statue. There it is. Okay, so that looks even creepier. Now from here it's making adjustments. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Let's put it down to the bottom of the capsule, so when we put the capsule on the floor it'll look like it is on the floor as well. From there, we probably want to rotate this in the direction of the blue arrow. Remember that that blue arrow is telling us what is facing, what would be the facing forward of this character. So now it looks like that character would be facing forward. So when it moves, this is the face that it moves on. From there, the other thing we'll need to do is add another component. So we'll need to add a component, and this now needs to be a scene. A utility, so underneath type in scene and then go underneath utilities and select a scene component, and this is going to be again spawn projectile location, and I'm going to name this one location 1. I just want to make sure I don't have any issues with any of the other code. You could be more specific and name it whatever the name of the character is, spawn, projectile, location, and then you can have 1, 2 if maybe they're spawning something from one hand and then spawning something from the other, and you need 2 different things to spawn. But at least this way I know I'm not going to have issues with the other one. I'm just doing this for demos and examples. Alright. So once we have that there, we're going to click on it. We're going to see where it actually was, and we're going to put that somewhere on the character that makes sense. So maybe with this character, really the only thing that makes sense is something coming out of maybe like its mouth. That seems to be or maybe the top of its head. Okay. Also make sure that you look all the way around and that this is actually in front. So you want to check both the X, Y, and Z axes and make sure that they are pretty much where you want that to be. Okay, so now that we have the pawn location and we have the cube, which is giving us a static mesh, we are now ready to add the two variables that we need, and with the two variables we can go ahead and start finishing up the rest of the code. Okay, so underneath variables we're going to need to add two of them. Let's go ahead and add two. The first one is going to stay a boolean. This one we're going to call spawn projectile location, and the second one we're going to call this shoot amount. And with that one, we're going to need to switch the variable type from a boolean to a float, which is going to then give us a numerical value. Okay, so we can see that things have already started to look a little bit better. In the code, certain things lit back up. We can probably hit compile and see what is actually not still there. So spawn projectile location 1, spawn projectile location 1, those seem to be the same. And if we have any issues, we'll probably go back and just remove these and then add the new ones in there. Now the other thing we do need to change is going to be the class, because right now it is still set to the other one, the other projectile. The one is being shot by the roaming chase shooting character. So in this one, what we're going to need to do is type in RC, which is the roaming chase character, and the rotating chase, I'm sorry, rotate RS, and then underscore, and we should then get the projectile. Okay, so now we are spawning the projectile for this character, the one that has been assigned to it. Okay, so now we have the shooting part of it completed. We could hit compile and save and just double check and make sure that everything's there. Okay, so before we move on, what we're going to do is we need to make sure that the values for our variables are set correctly. If you have not compiled and saved, go ahead and do so. I already have. And what that does is it's going to create these default values down here at the volume at the bottom of the details panel. So if I was to select, let's say, the pawn projectile, you'll see that that is what's in the details panel, and down there at the bottom it says default value. And basically what this does, if I click it, it's always going to give me a positive value. So it's always going to say that the answer to this is yes, as opposed to false, or true or false. Now remember that we're sticking this into a true-false branch condition, so this is giving us a true condition as a boolean, and then that gives us what is created after that on the branch. The other thing you'll have to do is go back into shoot amount, and inside shoot amount anywhere from 10 to 100, and what this does is it creates a certain number of ammunition for the thing to shoot. It gives it a numerical value to begin the shooting. Alright, so from there, that should be everything with this piece of the code. So let's go ahead and start adding the new things. Again, compile and save so that those changes take place. And now what we need to do is write the new code. So we're going to say, okay, so what we need to do is click on pawn sensing. Oh, you know what? We have not added pawn sensing to this guy. Shame on us. So let's go to add component. Let's add pawn sensing. Okay. And if we click on the pawn sensing, we should be able to go to viewport. And you're not going to see it right away. Remember that you have to compile. Once you compile, you're going to actually be able to see the information for it. At this point, what we're doing is we're not doing anything with hearing. So we're going to knock that down to 0, and I'm going to knock the next one down to 0, and we're going to turn the sight radius, let's say, to 3000. And let's change the peripheral to make this thing see just in front of it. Okay, so now that's going to act more or less like a rotating turret. It'll be able to see our character, and let's knock that back to, let's say, 2000. So it's not quite as big off of it. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going rather slow, so let's zoom in a little bit faster. Let's zoom in a little bit faster. Okay, so now we have our character. It's seeing directly in front of it. Actually, I'm going to widen that out just a little bit. Okay, that was a little bit too narrow for my taste. Let's make that about 30. I'll be happy with 30. Okay, so once we've got that and we've put the pawn sensing on, we can go ahead and hit compile and save. Now, with pawn sensing still selected, remember that you have the details panel here, and if you scroll down to the bottom of the details panel, you'll see events that are associated with pawn sensing. So we can go to the event graph, and we're going to select the first option up there, which is on cpawn. So whenever the pawn whenever this character sees us walk into its pawn sensing, it's going to give us whatever the next thing is. So from here, what we need to do is we're going to say cast to first person character. Okay, we're going to attach the pawn to the object, so this is what it's sensing for. From there, we're going to click this out and we're going to say rotate. I'm sorry, I'm going to cheat real quick. So set actor rotation. There it is right there. So set actor relative rotation. Let me just make sure that mine says relative. See, mine doesn't say relative, so let's not do that one. Gotta be careful with these things. Set actor rotation. Okay, so that makes the target is the actor, so it should be rotating itself is what it's saying. Let's double check my code, and that is the one that we want. Okay, so from there what we need to do is we need to set a new rotation, and what this needs now is a find look at rotation. So from here we're going to say find look at rotation, and what this is going to do is it's going to give us a starting point for where it's going to start rotating from, or where it picks up where the original rotation is from, and it's going to send us the new rotation coordinates. Because if you rotate, you have a direction that you're facing, and then you have a new direction that you're facing, right? So you need a starting point and an ending point, and both of these are going to be get actor location. Okay, so let's type in get actor location. Okay, and we're going to do another one. Get actor location. And with the top one, we're actually going to leave it by itself, because the way this is actually working is that it's picking up, this one is going to be where the location of the pawn, where the character's location is, so the turret itself, and the bottom one, which is the new location, is going to be where the character is. So it's picking up where it is and where it's going to be. And you know what? We forgot to do something here. We need to actually have this. We need to create we need to create a sequence, and so then that way the rotation is the first thing that happens, and then after the rotation happens, it will start shooting projectiles. So then this way we can connect the bottom code to the top code. So from this node right here, I'm going to actually type in branch. Remember that you could also type in if. No, I'm sorry, I need a sequence. What am I doing? Sequence under flow control. So we get then a box that gives us a first pin. So first do this, which is the rotation, and then shoot. Okay, so when we're done with it, our code should end up looking like this. The first piece of this is on pawn sensing. We wanted to cast to the first person player, so this is what the pawn sensing is looking for. This then creates a series of events that it's going to do. The first thing it's going to do is set rotation, so it's going to rotate the actor, and it's going to base that rotation on what direction the actor is facing and where our character is. So this then comes from the first person player, so that's where the second target is coming from, and it's going to rotate to that position. Then it's going to figure out where it is, compare it to where we are, or where the first person player is, and then rotate again. And then after the rotation is finished, what will happen is the second pin off of that sequence will come down here to the branch. That will then create a projectile, which is unique to this character, right? So that's why we made a new projectile, we renamed it, and we made sure that we added that to class. It's going to be created from where the spawn projectile location 1 is, and remember that that is a scene component that is in our viewport. So if we were to swing around here real quick, we'd see that it's going to happen from the top of the head on this character. From there, we're going to add an impulse. We need the impulse so we can add the shoot amount, which then will create will give us the ability to be able to shoot multiple rounds. And this piece of the code, remember, is to set this so then that way there is a delay between each one of the shots, so then that way it doesn't seem like a steady stream of which would seem unrealistic, like you would expect somebody to shoot once. So we're creating basically a semi-automatic feel to this. And then on the bottom one of these, we're making sure that this is checked on, so then that way it goes back and creates the loop and repeating the process. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit compile and save, and if everything is done correctly, we should be able to put this character out on the floor, and they should be able to move and sense us and shoot at us when we're there. Oh, I'm sorry, not move, rotate, because we're creating a rotating. Whoops, and I don't want to move the whole folder. I want to go into that folder and add one on the floor. There we go. Let's see which direction they're facing. So they're already basically from where we spawn, we would already be being hit. Okay, and let's add another one of these by just clicking Alt and dragging off. And this one I'm going to put closer to us, but I'm going to rotate this guy so that originally he's not looking at us. So we're going to have to go in between these two. And actually, you know what? Let me make it to where we have to go to the side to activate this one. And this one will be facing forward. So we'll be able to walk right back here without him shooting at us, or this one shooting at us. If we walk in front, they'll be able to shoot, and then it depends on where it rotates, where the rest of the area will be that it can then shoot in, and when we leave it, and this one will always be, you know, facing forward for this. So let's go ahead and push play and see if this is what indeed takes place. Okay, so we notice that first of all they are not shooting. Okay, so I'm going to walk behind the character. I'm not being shot at by this character, and this character has yet to rotate, so I'm going to walk in front of it. Its pawn sensing has now been activated, and it is shooting the wrong direction. Let's see. It seems to be shooting to the left instead of facing forward. So let's figure out why that is. First thing I would probably do is go to this. Let's look at pawn. Okay, maybe we can go to see what happens if we rotate it and then hit compile. Okay, so at least we know it's shooting. Let's try to get it to shoot the right way. Okay, so we now rotated that to the front. It is now facing forward. Okay, let's check and see if this is now the case with the other one. It did update, so good. So now this one is shooting at us. I guess it didn't rotate all the way around. It missed us. Okay, somehow we got out of its field. Okay. So this one is shooting at us, but the one back there is not. Let's move back towards this one. We're in front of its cones again. It's shooting at us. And then as far as like how they interact and how they would work with the character, you would have to make your own adjustments and figure out, you know, do you want the code wider? Do you want it to be longer? Do you want it to be shorter? So then that way it will affect, you know, the area that you intended to affect and how it's going to interact with the character. But okay, so at this point we have created now a rotating shooting enemy, which is stationary. It doesn't move. And the point of this would be to create a character that feels like a rotating turret. So then that way it itself is rotating and moving that way, but not actually moving across the floor. So, like a stationary gun or something. Anyways, but that then allows you to be able to create that type of an effect. Okay, so in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the Paragon, load the Paragon characters in, and start creating a small animation for them. So then that way we can create realistic characters, and I'm not saying realistic characters, I mean characters that run around and have a bit of animation, something that aren't as stiff as these characters are. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.